dear Venerable Sir and friends in the Dhamma. Now we can have a Dhamma talk, and also we can have a question and answer session also. So regarding the day that we are spending, if you have any questions about any part of this training, you can write down your questions and put into that box, and we can talk about the question and we can find answers for the questions. So right now we are going to talk about a little bit Dhamma, the teachings of the Buddha. The topic is how to recognize 5 hindrances. What sort of hindrances, what sort of impediments, what sort of disturbances do we have in our spiritual life, especially we encounter 5 hindrances. Pancha Nivarana. Disturb for the peace in mind. Those 5 factors are very aggressive and deeply rooted, very hard to recognize. Most of the time that we just feel that there are no any so-called impediments in our life. That is how it is very hard to recognize. They can play a very secret game in our life. They are very secret, very secretly do their business inside of our life. To recognize the 5 hindrances, I'm not hurried to think about the 5 hindrances, so I'm not going to list the 5, what are the 5, okay? So, to recognize the 5 hindrances, what we can do? I invite all of you to come into the hall. Come into your home. Enter into your home. What is the home? Enter into yourself. This is your home. This way of explaining would be a little bit rough, but enter to your home and stay naked. Go into your home and try to recognize, try to feel, try to acknowledge, try to separately feel what sort of feelings do we have physically and mentally, and then we can name all of those. Usually what we do, we name them. But right here, I ask you to go inside and watch around, look around. Basically, when we are in our own home, without any barriers, without any limits, you can see the real nature of your mind. Real nature of your mind. The way nature behave, the mind behave in your life. Now you can just do it instead of listening to someone's talk. Turn inward and contemplate and watch around what sort of mentalities, what sort of mental factors do we have inside by hindering, by disturbing for our life in general. Because 5 hindrances are disturbing not only for the spiritual well-being, also they are disturbing for our general peace in our life. Without naming the Buddhist terms, if you try to recognize your own so-called impediments, how do you feel yourself? What sort of conditioning, what sort of habitual patterns, what sort of drives do we have inside of us? Of course, no argument about the sensual desire. Sensual desire, the desire is the main drive that we all experience in our life. The sensual desire is very aggressive. But at the beginning it seems like very gentle, beautiful, nice, and very attractive, very colorful. But in the middle of the journey, if anything change in their life, in their structure, if any subtle tremor is occurring inside, that beauty is gone, that peace is gone, no more peace there. Then we start to run around and find the peace outside the world. Because we know that we don't have any more peace inside. Our building collapsed. Our relationships collapse. Our agreements break down. No more peace inside. Then our decisions very aggressive. Very aggressive. That because we do not recognize the nature of sensual pleasure, sensual desire. We think when we achieve something, we think that we can keep it forever. That is the mistake that we have in our life. We think that we can hold whatever we grab, whatever we hold, whatever we achieve, that we used to believe we can keep it forever with us. But the sensual desire itself is a desire. Continuously, it is growing. It is growing. And it is seeking more and more tastes. If you don't recognize it, if you don't look at it, it has its own watering, fertilizers, and everything. There you have that. That is the nature. That is the nature of the sensual desire. It's an unending thirsty. You complain and jump onto the other. You complain and jump onto the other. You complain and jump onto the other. That is why, dear friend, the sensual desire is a disturbance, a disturbing factor for our peace in mind, well-being of our life, and for our family well-being, for our social well-being, even at the spiritual point of view. The spirituality is not there. That because if you don't know how to maneuver, if you don't know how to maneuver, if you don't know how to work with the sensual desire, there's no more peace in mind. Sensual desires, that is why it is very aggressive. Right now it seems like very calm and quiet, and it seems that there's no any so-called turbulence inside the mind. That is the disguised behavior of this mentality. Very difficult to recognize. This is not a Dhamma talk. This is an inner talk. Watching yourself, watching oneself. Sensual desire is such a You have to observe it very carefully, recognize it. To do that, only tool that you can have mindfulness. Mindfulness and clear comprehension. That is why you have to go into your home and stay in your home without having any so-called barriers. We have barriers, the cultural barriers, economic barriers, status, and so much of differences we have. But if you go into your home and watch real nature of your mind, there you will see this kind of very driving forces. Those are driving forces. They drive your life. The sensual desire drives your life. Think about this. It's very powerful. Very powerful, and it drives our life. We think that we are sitting on our driving seat. It's a misunderstanding. We are not sitting in our driving seat. Somebody has intruded into this driving seat, and that driver is driving the vehicle. No control. Not at all. No control. That is the problem, that we cannot overcome this samsaric journey. That because we always mislead, deviate from the spiritual journey, because the sensual desire is very colorful and brightly shining, and very nicely it knows how to mislead you. Be alert. Stay in home. Stay inside as much as possible and recognize them. The sensual desire is the most dangerous mental factor. And in the teachings of the Buddha, there is a simile for the sensual desire to recognize. It says, think about a pot with the water. If you don't put anything, if you don't mix anything into the water, you can see through it. You can see the reflection of your face. But if you add any colors, any coloring into this water pot, what happens? You cannot see through it. You cannot see the reflection of it. You forget about everything and you start to complain. You cannot see. Then and there, if you cannot see through it, you are blind. You know only how to complain. Just complain. You are not ready to forgive. That is the hardest part. You might be asking repeatedly forgiveness. No way. You don't get any forgiveness. You won't get any forgiveness. That is the nature. That is why you have to have a very clear mind to see through it. If you have put any coloring in your mind, at least, of course, it is unavoidable. Coloring is inside the mind. That is the nature of the mind. It is conditioned. It's a driving force. What can we do? We have to recognize them. We have to trim them into the proper way. And we have to maintain them. And we have to responsible. We have to be responsible to take care of them. Otherwise, your peace in mind won't be there. Recognizing is the most important skill that we all have to have. Recognizing. Expose. Nakedly expose into the sensual desire and experience how the sensual desire work in your life, how it is playing in your life. Recognize it. Completely opposite type of mentality that we have is anger, ill will. You won't believe that is the completely different, opposite side of the sensual desire. Sensual desire itself seems very nice, very beautiful, very colorful and very attractive. At the same time, it has a nature, intrinsic nature to trigger that opposite mentality in our mind. Anger. If you are not able to maintain and control and keep under your guidance, then you will see it. Ill will. You are not ready to go anymore. You are not ready to go anymore. Your anger is very stubborn, very tough. It's a decision-making tool. Anger is a decision, because anger comes with a reason, not without reason. That is why you have to recognize your anger. For the ill will, there is a simile in the discourse, the teachings of the Buddha. It's a boiling pot. If you want to see through the bottom of the boiling pot, you cannot see it. You cannot see your reflection on it because it is boiling. Anger is a boiling mentality. You ruin your peace in mind if you don't know how to recognize, how to maintain. Eradication is the last part of the last activity. It is not easy, but at least if you are able to recognize, Bhante will explain how to eradicate that part later. But right now we try to look within, draw your attention to yourself while you are listening to this, and openly you look within. Look your anger, your ill will. it's also a driving force, same as the sensual desire. It has power to use bad words. It has power to use tools physically, attack somebody. It is so much disruptive behavior expressed this mentality. So you have to recognize your ill will, anger. The interesting thing is that the very thing that you loved very much, just after you turn into the anger, you are ready to destroy it. No matter what, no matter where, no matter how, you are ready to destroy it. You don't want to keep it anymore. That is why anger should be guarded, should be watched. You cannot watch from the outside. If you try to understand watching outside, no, it doesn't work. Other people's anger is not the real nature of your anger. You cannot recognize the anger by seeing, by looking the quarrels of the other people, among the other people. So you have to watch your inner quarrel, inner argument, inner misbehavior. So the ill will, sensual desire, you can find these are like weeds. They are growing in your flower bed. Your mind is like a flower bed. Of course, there are various possibilities to grow lots of good, wholesome thoughts in your flower bed. Beautiful flowers, compassion, tolerance, patience, loving kindness, and so forth. But the sensual desire and ill will, they are very tactful and they know how to survive. Tiny bit of root is enough to overcome entire beautiful flower bed, beautiful mind. So that is why it is very dangerous, very hard, when you get real anger and sensual desire, that you think it's like addiction. You used to think that without expressing it and going into that sensual desire and anger, what is the meaning of this life? That is how we start to think. And you just jump into the fire again and again and again and again. Even you know that you are burning. You don't care about the burning. The driving force is very stubborn. Push you into the fire. So the sensual desire, ill will, and the third one is the sloth and torpor. Sloth and torpor, the lethargic type of mentality, mentally and physically, sluggishness or lethargic or laziness, is also a common factor that you can recognize them. Sometimes for your very important achievements, this so-called mentality disturbed and hinder your growth. Sloth and torpor. It's a kind of mental and physical kind of very deeply rooted mentality, a condition. It's a habit and it's an addiction. If you don't recognize them, watching clearly and looking at directly, if you don't recognize them, it seems that you don't have any so-called sloth and torpor. Because your mind knows how to justify any so-called mentalities in your life. And the restlessness and remorse. Restlessness. The restlessness and remorse, there is a good simile for that. Think about the windy water or agitated, swaying, producing waves on the water. Can you see through that kind of water? If the water pot is shaking back and forth continuously, can you see through it? Sometimes our mind is same like that. It is shaking. It is shaking. It is continuously. It is that nature is there, but unfortunately we don't recognize and we think we are okay. But suddenly this restlessness and remorse can appear. Once it appears, no control. You cannot control. That is why on and off you watch yourself and become familiar with those mentalities. Instead of trying to eradicate and trying to do something for that, just become familiar with those thoughts. And the doubt, the last one. Those are the 5 hindrances. Sensual desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and remorse, and the doubt. You know, the doubt, actually there's a simile given for the doubt, is keeping the pot of water in the dark. If you keep it in the dark, even with a little bit muddy, can you see through it? No, not at all, because it is in the dark. Actually, when you are in the dark, you know that you cannot see through anything. The doubt is also play such a role in our life. We cannot recognize. We cannot recognize anything. We have a doubt with regard to everything finally. Doubt is a very disguised and very hard to find, and because very hard to recognize. All other factors are quite visible, but the doubt, because it depends on with regard to what do we experience the doubt? Doubt has a major role, bigger role in our life, for our secular life, for our spiritual life, both differently. It plays a big role and major role in our life. So doubt, even for the monks, for us, we can have the doubt regarding our own path. If we have a doubt about our own path, think about it. What can we do? Where can we go? What we are doing? What we are talking? So the doubt is very thin and very invisible. It's an invisible layer. That is why, in my understanding, I always recommend to have curiosity to overcome the doubt. Because the doubt, questioning. Most of the time we try to avoid questioning, or we do not directly ask questions due to many reasons. That might be a cultural, that might be a sort of belief or whatever, or faith. There might be due to many reasons we skip this. But if you maintain the curiosity, actually you can see the doubt and go through the doubt. Otherwise, even you don't know how to go through the doubt. Even you don't know how to recognize the doubt. And also there is another set of simile that the Buddha has given, that mind itself is like a piece of gold. You know, the gold can be discolored and disfamed, and with 5 other materials, elements. The Buddha has named them iron, copper, tin, lead and silver. So those all the materials can discolor and fragile, make it weak. The ability, the strength can decrease the strength of the gold. So in our mind, if you have all those 5 mental factors, of course, you are not having any longer so-called beautiful and valuable and very important mind, very important piece of gold. So always, if you want to maintain mind like a piece of gold, you have to always watch it carefully and keep it clean, and always give your full attention, and then and there you can. Otherwise, very easily it goes into all other elements and integrate and discolor. That is the nature of everything, even in this, because the iron, copper, tin, lead, silver, all of them are decaying. They know how to settle in other elements. They know how to build their corrosion. They know how to separate their particles very slowly, and they know how to intrude into the gold. And gold become very easily discolored and devalue the gold. There's no longer so-called pure gold, that because all those 5 forces, 5 elements can integrate, because they have their own nature. Their surviving method is to go in somewhere and settle. So in this context, our mind, if you don't watch our mind, if you don't recognize the nature of your mind, of course, mind is the most vulnerable factor in our life. It seems like very straightforward and very strong, but that is the most complicated and the weak part of factor of the life. So always you have to keep in mind that my mind is vulnerable. Any moment, so-called 5 mental hindrances can intrude into the mind and settle in the mind and discolor the mind and devalue the mind. So dear friends, it is our journey, it is our effort, it is our dedication. We all have to keep in mind that we are born with the 5 hindrances. Those are inbuilt nature. They are inside of us. We have to have a clear vision, clear eyesight, mental eyesight, to watch and just recognize. Watch and recognize. Watch and recognize. Especially when you are going through the difficulties. I really recommend, when you are going through some sort of difficulties in your life, that is the best time to recognize and sort out the 5 defilements. Instead of just finding quickly answer for your difficulties, settle and work with your defilements and recognize and sort out. It will be another good lesson and fertilizer to grow your spirituality. It will be a real achievement in your life. If you just try to. Most of the time when we see some difficulties, dangers in front of us, what we do? We just try to avoid it. But my understanding is just go it and hit and get the experience, real experience. Real experience is very tough, but educate your life forever. You can keep in your mind and remember forever. That education is very strong, and you won't forget. You won't forget. So if you have any so-called desire, any so-called mental, don't hide them. Just open it. Let it behave. And look around and watch. And Bhante will explain tomorrow what can we do for them further. So now we can stop here, and now it is 2:15.
So we have a few more minutes for for Christians. Yeah. So Bhante was encouraging us to first to recognize those hindrances when they are present in our mind.
Yeah, it should be a genuine recognition.
Bhante, thank you very much for your excellent explanation on the 5 hindrances. You put it in a very simple way, and for the first time I understand it better than all the books I've read. I just like to touch on the 4th hindrance, which is restlessness and remorse. Now this word remorse, is it correct for me to understand this as regret? Is remorse the same as regret? Regret, remorse, you regret that you've done something, that's why you're remorseful. Is that correct way of understanding it? Or is remorse something bigger than regret?
Remorse is, that is why I think...
Negative.
Yeah. Remorse is more powerful.
Yeah. Actually, it becomes a hindrance if we simply, feel bad about ourselves, remorseful. But if we recognize the mistake and determine not to repeat it, that's different. That is not a hindrance. So repentance is the good one, remorse is the bad one.
Right. Okay. So, I didn't say repentance, I said
regret.
Is regret the same as remorse? Because if remorse means feeling bad about something you have done, perhaps, in that sense it's like regretting you did something. Yes?
But when you regret, you become dull.
Yes.
You get the mood and you hide somewhere and stay. But when you are remorse, you try to fix it and you struggle with the restlessness increase with the influence of the remorse.
And so, Bhante, what is the way to address this feeling of being remorse? Obviously, we have to get rid of it as one of the hindrances. And if one is feeling remorse, what do you do about it? How do you get out of that dark cloud?
Observe the precepts again. Re-establish oneself.
Actually, Bhante, it is not easy to get rid of them, because if they have come into your mind and discolored your mind, then you cannot do anything right away there. So what you can do is step back and sit for a while and think about it and try to understand. If you cannot understand, then you can consult with someone, especially with a spiritual person, and recognize it properly and determine that I am recognizing. Then and there you can work on that. Otherwise, those are very sharp tools, sharp mental factors. Once you get it into your mind and you fail, you cannot do anything. We cannot do anything. We fail. We don't want to do anymore. Right now we talk about them because we don't have. If you have any so-called mentality, you don't listen to anybody. You are stubborn and you go in your own way. That is why this kind of spiritual times are very important for us to recognize them and think about them. otherwise very stubborn. So, restlessness and remorse or whatever, all the, as Bhante mentioned, yes, of course, observing precepts. But what I mean, the observing precept itself won't be helpful at that level, because your mind is very weak, psychologically wounded. So you have to work on that very carefully, gently.
And perhaps part of that healing is to also know how to let go.
Yeah, let go is a nice word.
And difficult to do.
You should have both.
I think we all are not perfect, so we all have done mistakes in our lives, and it is common that we have done something bad or wrong in our life. So it's very important to recognize it and accept it. But I think what the Buddha is recommending us is to actually not keep worrying about the mistake that we have done again and again and again and again, but focus more on the strength that we have, that we can overcome it. But Bhante is suggesting us that, instead of quickly trying to overcome it, but first try to understand it and understand the root cause, then it will help us to get rid of it completely later. Right, Bhante?
Yeah, because education is the most important part in our life. By exposing yourself directly, you educate yourself and you collect some experiences for your life. That is why I think I'm thinking.
So in the teachings, because of the Buddha's teaching on non-self, so all of us are not a finished product. We keep evolving still. So nothing is fixed. We keep evolving, changing. So whatever mistakes, bad deeds that we have done is not not the end of the story. So we still have more room to keep growing and keep changing. So therefore, keep regretting, maybe remorseful about what we have done again and again. Is not considered a virtue in Buddhism. But of course we need to recognize it, but then should focus more on the strength that we have to move forward. Don't stuck there, and we can keep growing.
Okay, is it like, I have a friend, he was abused when he was a child. So as he was growing up, he abused his children, And then when we met him and we sat with him, brought him into the Dhamma, he changed. He could not go back to his children because he's separated from them and the family, and they don't accept him anymore. But what he did was, instead of living in that pain, he actually took out money financially, and he got some orphans, and he worked with them, like paid for their fees, give them tuition, things like that. And then he sent his love to them. Is that what Bhante is talking about, the healing, the part that do what we can do rather than live in what we have done
In the past, yeah.
not able to change?
Yes.
Would this be an
Yes.
example?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way actually we can do. We have to find the routes and the ways to heal ourselves.
Yeah, he's healing right now. He's healing very well. And the children are also abused children. So the children are also getting that love and seeing a different kind of parent in that sense. So I think it's actually working out for both parties.
Both parties, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, thank you, sister. Yeah.
It's a nice
Good
sharing.
example.
Thank you. Yeah.
I mean, when you were talking about the healing, I was thinking of this person, and I think it matches what you say.
Yeah. We all have opportunity to heal ourselves, correct ourselves. The problem is that if you are complaining repeatedly without accepting your mistakes, that's a mistake. So we have to accept our mistakes, and then we have to work on them and find ways to correct them. Actually very easily, then we can heal. But as you mentioned, somebody brought him into the Dhamma and educate him and help him to heal. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, the friends who brought him into the Dhamma was exposing him. They were also mundane people. They're not able to tell him what to do.
Yeah.
It was just an exposure. And from the learnings from the Dhamma, he actually applied it in his everyday life. So I thought that was very, very close to what you were saying.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, sister, you have a question?
Bhante, my question kind of has been answered just now. Thank you very much. And through all the Dhamma talks I've attended, I try to grasp, I try to learn, I try to cultivate, try to go inward and find out what my problems are, and then try to let go. As you say, easy, not easy, but certain things can be let go. Certain things can't be let go. This is something that I don't know how to deal with, because we do so many things, right? And we have to handle and deal with so many subjects, so many people, and everyone behaves differently. So every time a problem comes, so we try to look inward for the solution. Like you say, sit down, get calm, and try to find a solution. But sometimes let go. But there's times when we cannot let go because I don't know whether this is right. Because for me personally, if I let go, I let other people down. So in this aspect, especially when we are doing things together, but I'm not happy, not because I am troublesome, but there are things that are happening that I just feel unhappy about, and I tell myself, okay, just try and accept it, and then if I really cannot, then I have to let go. Then other thoughts come in, like if I let go, what's going to happen? And I'm going to let other people down, I'm going to let whatever we are doing down. So this is very troublesome actually.
I think, Bhante, we have to understand what is the meaning of real meaning of the letting go.
Yes, Bhante.
People
It
think
is
that
not giving
letting
up.
go is not
Not
throwing away.
Yeah. Letting go is not giving up.
And letting go is not giving up, as Bhante.
If we let go, like people keep doing things.
Actually, accepting, you say accept.
Yeah, this is the very simple gesture that I can show you what is the letting go mean. The nature of our life, nature of our mind is always grabbing, holding, and keeping tightly, claiming ownership. What Buddha says, letting go, in letting go, what we do, just we keep open. That doesn't make any sense that you have let it go. But if it wants, it can go. What you have provided is freedom and security. Continuously you have to provide the freedom and the security while you are letting go. Letting go is a very spiritual factor. Letting go is not dropping off. That is why I think you argue within yourself, did I let it go properly? Why am I doing letting go or letting down? That kind of conversation is going on there because I think truly we have to understand the real spiritual meaning of letting go. Letting go is keep your arm open. Keep your palm open and let it be there and provide the security and the freedom, most important factors for everybody. It is very hard. Again,
It's
just
sometimes even accepting our limitations is also part of letting go. Yes, yeah.
Thanks for the conversation. Actually, I have a question on doubt. Because I think the other four already have gone through. I have recognized by myself and I am able to fix it on myself. So I am actually, I cannot say, but I am proud of it. But the final one doubt is actually a big doubt for me. Knowing our, just before some time Bhante said, knowing our uniqueness is actually a good thing. And you said the doubt, if we have any doubt, we should be more curious. The curiosity we can overcome or like go through the doubt. But I feel myself like I'm over curious. And surprised to know that I don't have fear for anything. I don't know why. I think if I'm doing things right, I don't need to fear for anything.
if you notice that you are over curious, then you know it.
I'm more doubtful.
No, I mean, if you more doubtful,
Because curious about everything. That I'm planning to sit in I want to try that, and in between something comes in, I want to try that even. I don't know, many people will feel like maybe suffering the same, I don't know. It's like the curiosity is, I think it's even more serious.
I use the word curiosity to questioning.
Yeah, opening
Yourself and questioning, but not, abruptly, but to know something with the point, having a kind of clear understanding about the question. When you have a nature to raise the questions, it self has to have a kind of discipline. What kind of question do I ask? How should I form the question? What is the purpose of asking this question? And so forth. We have to develop some kind of guidelines ourselves before we raise the question. And that kind of questions will provide the clear answer. That answer will grow you and dispel the doubt slowly.
So within the context of meditation, what we mean by doubt is the uncertainty of our practice, uncertainty of our journey. So if you're uncertain, what I'm doing, what is the goal of this practice, so then we have a lot of doubts. So that is why we explain at the beginning, that is why we have to have a right view, or the first right vision, to have clear understanding of why we are practicing this, what is the goal, and what are the examples that we have before us. So the more questioning, or maybe being more knowledgeable about the Dhamma can help us to have a get rid of the uncertainty or instability of our understanding. So we know when we are sitting, we are doing this for this purpose. Yeah. Otherwise, we'll be questioning why I'm doing this. Is it going to work? Is it right? Is it wrong? Because we don't have a clear understanding.
But uncertainty falls under the restlessness.
Say again?
The restlessness, where we are not certain about things and
Yeah. Uncertainty is the foundation for all other things too. Yeah, it's a part of the other things. Yeah.
So I think I will still in restlessness.
Yeah, restlessness can even be a habit, right, Bhante? It can be a habit.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bhante.
Yes, sister.
For instance, forgive me if I did not ask my question in a clear way. Something that I find a bit difficult to understand when it comes to meditation and how to overcome our defilement. Because I understand that defilement probably we call klesas or Pemaratana. And through meditation, through vipassana meditation, through observing our own mind, and then developing awareness, mindfulness, your mind, they say we can get rid of our defilement. And Reverend just give us a small explanation how this thing can come about. That is by meditation.
That is our next topic.
Explain defilement. Directly our subconscious mind. Thank you very much.
Yes, sister, that is the topic of our next talk. I think, I think what Bhante, encourages us, first we need to recognize defilements as they are present. And before we become very rushed to overcome it, first we need to recognize it. And then we can find ways to overcome it. I think you asked an example. I think we can explain, but maybe we will take the break, and before we start the next session, we will explain briefly. But it takes time. Of course, our meditation, our mindfulness, all these spiritual practices are aiming to help us to overcome defilements, which is possible to do it. But you asked me an example, right? Yeah. So maybe I will try to explain with an example, maybe future talks. Yeah. Thank you.